I asked you guys a question. And I asked you simply, who do you want to see Colby Covington fight next? Chimaev or Muhammad? Now, I think in fairness, we have a round robin there. And for no good goddamn reason at all. Dana went on Pat McAfee and threw two guys out there. He said, Colby's already going to the main event of ABC. Whoever wins between Burns and Chimaev is going to go meet him. Belal Muhammad came out a week later and said, not so fast. Okay, but let's just go with those players because I love them. Those are three awesome players, but I don't know that it has to be Colby versus Belal or Colby versus Chimaev. I'm not sure where Colby sits in this whole thing other than his name got dropped on the Pat McAfee show. It could be Chimaev versus Belal. Do you get any problem with that? I mean, just in all fairness, it sounds like we've got three guys who are very willing, who could go and make a great event. So I'm just asking, who do you want to see? I know we've been led to believe, and as human beings, we tend to prefer the first idea that we heard. So I know there's a part, we like Chimaev versus Colby. That's interesting. That's got to happen. Those two are not going to be kept apart. Not for long. So we can do it now. We can have this same conversation 6 months from now. Either way, we're going to have to deal with this. But Colby never agreed to it. Colby has laid fairly low since he was jumped. There's reports that he had teeth knocked out. I don't know how accurate this is, but I'm just trying to prove a point that I really don't know that we have Colby or we have ever had Colby. But I do like the concept that Colby was the first there. It's very hard to get Dana off an idea once he has it. It just is. So he made this really simple comment on Pat McAfee, and now we're trying to tear this thing apart to levels and depths that Dana never intended, but let's do it anyway because it's fun. The one guy that was there when that statement was made was Colby. That was the guy that's sitting here in the main event on ABC waiting to find out who's going to advance to get to him, in which case was Chimaev. So it would seem, if this first statement is true, which again, I'm going to a depth and a level that Dana did not intend to, but let's just say that that is true. It seems like Colby is the constant. So if you can't work out something with Chimaev versus Covington for whatever reason, which in my opinion is only going to be because you're not going to promise Colby a title fight and you're going to give one to Chimaev, I think that's going to create some hard feelings. You could put Muhammad in there. It gets very interesting, guys. And when I asked you this first, it was very tight. I go through all the comments, even went on YouTube and something called a community section, set up a poll. It was 80-20. You guys wanted Chimaev versus Colby. However, that was before Belal spoke up, and that was before I gave you the option of taking Colby out completely, putting Belal versus Chimaev. Like, that's interesting. That's a really interesting match. Belal is on the tip of everybody's tongue right now. Belal, in his last fight, proved to be better than you thought. Don't forget, he was the underdog. It's not me talking. That's the official line. Belal was the underdog. He turned out to be better than we knew. Can we agree? Right or wrong, Chimaev turned out to be more human than we knew. As a community, can we agree? So there's a lot of reasons that's really interesting. I'm not sure 3 weeks ago it was. I'm not sure with the information we had 2 weeks ago it was. I'm not sure with the information Dana White had when he spoke to Pat McAfee and floated that idea out there, that his other options were as compelling as they are today. I think there's room to move here. Now, I also think that I'm looking at it differently than I ever do, and perhaps that's because it involves Colby, and I get all sensitive when something involves Colby. Generally, I would not talk about, well, we don't have Colby yet. That's not the way I would normally talk. I would say this is a mega opportunity, and you need to go out there and fight for it. And right when you thought you had it, because there was two of you, in comes Belal with a whole nother idea. Give it a whole nother lens to look at this thing through. And I would normally be coming from a position of get the call-outs going, knock Belal the hell out of the way, guarantee this fight, call the office, get a hold of the second floor, get that paperwork. I mean, generally, that's the stance that I would come from. But I do think in the wake of having very limited information on what happened with Colby, that restaurant, we don't have a lot of info there, guys. And secondly, I'm just not convinced that they're going to make what's good for the goose, good for the gander, and I just think that's going to be a problem for Team Covington. I do. I don't have inside info, guys. This isn't Colby told me to say this and I'm out floating an idea. I'm just speaking. I do believe that if Chimaev wins, it will be stated ahead of time that he will fight Usman. That's what I think. I think that's going to create hard feelings because now you're talking about he gets something as the number 3 ranked guy that the number 1 ranked guy doesn't get. I just think it's going to be a problem. I just think there's going to be a discussion here. There is going to be a discussion. Look, you could try to deal with those problems. That's one way to promote an event. You can also look for the next best option. And it looks like we got some damn good ones. I don't think anyone's going to have their feelings hurt. Chimaev doesn't appear to give a goddamn. Belal does. Belal wants to fight. He wants the opportunity. He wants to return to a main event, but this time he wants to do it on network TV. The only one we haven't heard from is Covington, who I personally give a pass to because he's dealing with something else in addition to having this sprung on him. It's one of those things. I don't have a huge point here. I'm not trying to build your guys' support and go in some direction. I'm just sharing for you that what looked like a party of 2 is now a party of 3. Because Belal's inserted himself and he's proven to you guys he's better than you gave him credit for.